Welcome to Handmade with Holly. My name is Holly Michelson, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Del Mar, New York, just outside of Albany. I'm really excited today to bring you some alternate ideas for your paper pumpkin kits. Today we're going to use an easel fun fold to jazz up our paper pumpkin kit from July of 2022. This is the Sending Good Thoughts paper pumpkin kit. I have samples from 3 other past paper pumpkin kits that you can also do using this same fun fold. And in reality, this fun fold will work with most of the kits, but you do need a card design that is in a vertical orientation. So this card, for instance, here is horizontal. While this is not an ideal layout for this fun fold, there are still other options within this kit. With most kits, you could find a way to use this fun fold and take your kit up to the next level. Now, before I get started, I just want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribing is free of charge, and all that means is that you'll have access to my videos and they might come up in your recommended videos. But if you go ahead and click on that notifications bell next to the subscribe button, YouTube will also notify you each time I upload a new video and you won't miss anything. Now, first of all, you're going to need your paper pumpkin kit Sending Good Thoughts. This is the July 2022 kit. We're not going to make this exact card today. We're going to make a variation of this version of the kit. In addition to the supplies that are in my kit, I'm going to be adding a card size piece of Pacific Point Designer Series paper. Now, you can get Pacific Point in the Brights Designer Series pack. So if you have a pack of Brights Designer Series paper, you'll be able to get a sheet of Pacific Point. I'm going to use a retired sheet, but there's a current sheet that will work just the same. Or you could also look at the coordinating colors listed on the back: Balmy Blue, Basic Gray, Bermuda Bay, Fresh Freesia, and Poppy Parade, in addition to that Pacific Point, and find a sheet of Designer Series paper that you have that will coordinate with the card. Besides the sheet of Designer Series paper, I'll also be adding some basic white cardstock for the card base and for an extra sentiment label. I made this design pretty similar to the sample that you see here in the kit, except I added a gemstone for the seahorse's eye, and I turned it into this fun easel fold card. So you can see that the card is 3-dimensional. It stands just like this. It's not a great the camera's not at a great angle for you, but it stands like that, and it folds flat and fits into an A2 envelope. I have 5 more samples from 3 other paper pumpkin kits, and stick with me to the end and I'll be sure to show you those. 11 by 4 1/4 piece of thick basic white cardstock. So this is a half sheet of cardstock, and we're going to use it to make our card base. So I need to score it twice, first to create the center fold and then once to create the mechanism for the easel. So I'm going to go ahead and bring my scoring blade up to the top. That's the light gray blade, and I'm going to score at the 5.5 inch mark. So half of 11 is 5.5 inches. I like to run that a few times, get a good score. And then I'm going to slide it over to 2 3/4. Now 2 3/4 is half of the half. So if this is 11 and this is 5.5, then half of this side is going to be 2 3/4. Again, I'm going to give that a good score, and that is what's going to create my easel mechanism. So we'll start off by folding on the typical fold that you're accustomed to, which is the one in the center, and I'm just going to finger fold that. I'm going to bring in my bone folder and give that a good crease The bone folder really helps to break down the fibers in the paper so that the card will sit flat. And you'll notice that this is what we call a mountain fold. So when I made this fold, I created a mountain. For this score line, we need a valley fold. So that means we're going to fold it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to finger fold on the score line and then bring in my bone folder and give that a good burnish, okay? Now that's the most difficult part of the card. That's the mechanism to make our easel. I'm going to set it aside for just a moment to bring in one of the card bases. So you'll notice in the kit, this has a basic gray card base. We're going to use this basic gray card base, but we only need the front part. And we're going to take the card base and we're going to line it up at 4 1/4. And this time we're going to use the cutting blade. So I'm going to bring the dark gray blade to the top and we're just going to cut it there right where it was scored. Now the other half you can set aside and use that for another project. We only need this side for the card. And this is going to become the piece here that mounts, and it's going to frame our scene just like this, but it's the part of the mechanism that will work for the easel, if that makes sense, okay? We also want to have a piece of designer series paper for the inside of our card. This one I cut 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. I cut it the exact same size as the inside, but I cut this one a little smaller. I wanted to show you that you could also do it in a way that it would frame it. So this one is 4 by 5 1/4, standard matting layer for an A2 card, okay? So ultimately it's gonna be like that, all right? So I cut this in advance. Again, it came from a pack of Bright's Designer Series paper. My sheet kind of looks like blue burlap. It had some polka dots on the other side. But again, this particular pack is retired, and the current pack actually looks like this. So you have dots, plaid, stripes, and flowers. And I recommend maybe you consider the stripes or the dots for this card. And then the rest of our embellishments here are pretty much going to come from the kit. So we have the coral from the kit, we have the bottle from the kit, and there is also a sentiment label there. So I'm going to pop these out. We're going to need these. They're already pre-perforated, so with just a few bits of pressure, they pop right out. We have those two. We're also going to pull this embossed piece out of the kit. This came exactly like this, no work there. I'm going to pop out the coral. You want to be a little careful here. This is kind of fine, so we want to make sure that we don't tear it as we're popping that out. You also want to be careful and leave your backing intact. Oh, my bird pop. That's how easy they pop out. My bird popped out on its own. But I can also leave this the way it is, and if I wanted, I could come in with one of my blending brushes and blend ink and make additional corals on other projects. So I'm definitely going to save this. This is a great little stencil. And I'm going to pop out the starfish, even though that's not in the design. This measures 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4, and we're going to use this in this position down here as our stopper to hold our easel. Let's do all our stamping at once to be efficient. So we're going to want to stamp our 2 sentiments, the one for here plus the one that's going to be the stopper, and we're going to stamp our scroll on our bottle. And we're also going to add, we're also going to pop out this piece, this banner, which is part of the visual interest for the background. I almost forgot that piece. Okay, so we'll start off here. This actually, there's this little stamp here that kind of makes it look like a sea net, like for catching fish. So we're going to ink that up and add that to our banner to add a little bit of texture and dimension to that. I'm going to put down some scratch paper so that while I'm over stamping, I'll get it on the extra paper, and then when I'm done, you won't have to look at it for the rest of the video. I'm going to kind of come in and add some of this texture to the starfish to make the starfish a little more interesting. Looks good. Okay, so now the starfish looks like it has a little texture and dimension. And let's stamp our sentiment. I'm going to take my take your pick tool though and poke out this little dot that we want to remove. That way we can thread some string through that. And I'm going to stamp this with thinking of you. So the sample says can't wait to see you. I'm going to use the thinking of you. Center that in the strip. It's a little longer than is needed, so well, I got it a little crooked. Always when you're on video. All right, well, it doesn't matter because this is gonna swing around a little bit too, so it'll be in motion. And I'm also going to stamp our message in a bottle. Now, I'm not sure if how bright I want it, so I'm gonna give this a practice. That comes out pretty dark, and I don't think I want it quite that dark. Here's where, if you have it, you could substitute Coastal Cabana. Coastal Cabana is a little bit lighter than Bermuda Bay. So if you have that, that might be a fun thing to try. Let's take a look at that. And there you can see sort of the version of Coastal Cabana. I actually like that better. So if you don't have the Coastal Cabana, what you could do is you could stamp the Bermuda Bay and just stamp it, stamp it once. And then if you stamp it again, you'll get a lighter color. Actually, that's my favorite. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do, this is called second generation stamping, when you stamp 2 times without re-inking in between. So I'm going to use that second generation stamp on my bottle. I really like that color. All right, so again, we're going to ink it up fully, and we're going to stamp once to get rid of some of the color, and then without re-inking, I'm going to come in and stamp it a second time so that I get the second generation color. Love that. Very, very happy about that. Other thing that we're going to stamp that isn't in the design is down here, and so we're going to stamp the phrase sending good thoughts, the same thing I stamped here. And I think this was wishing you all the best, sending good thoughts, and this is thinking of you, sending good thoughts. I liked the sending good thoughts stamp. I thought it coordinated with both of the sentiments that I used on each of the card fronts. But I also like the fact that it's long and skinny, and so it makes a really great stopper for the easel card. There are some other great sentiments in the set, but they're not the same shape and size, and that shape and size is really kind of perfect for what we're doing here. All right, now I think we're done stamping, and I'm going to go ahead and whisk this away, and now all of that mess is gone. Perfect. Okay, now really all we need to do is assemble. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to grab my stamp and seal, and what I recommend is that you put the adhesive here. If we put the adhesive on the back, there's a good chance we'll slightly go over the middle, and then we'll have adhesive down here that would stick to the card. So the best way to avoid that is to put the adhesive on this surface, which we know is going to be entirely covered. And now I'm going to carefully line up my basic gray sheet so that my corners match and that my white is concealed. And then I'm going to press it down firmly, okay? It's coming together. Now I'm going to take my Pacific Point and again put my adhesive on the back. Sometimes if you're having a little trouble getting your Stampin' Seal started, you can start it on a silicone mat, and that's a good way to get it going. And now I'm going to bring this in and put it on the inside, taking care to leave an even border around the 4 edges. We're going to go ahead and add our embossed piece to the front of the card. Again, I'm going to take care to center this so that I see that nice gray border on all 4 sides. And then I can bring in my banner piece here, the end here, and it's not cooperating. Is the end. Look at that. Whoops, we're at the end of the Stampin' Seal. Okay, rather than take the time to find the refill, I'm gonna switch to snail. So if you remember, this is the adhesive that we sold before the Stampin' Seal came out. I still have a little bit left. So there we go. Place that in the center of my card. Now putting down this coral piece is a little tricky. There's a few things that you could do. You could green glue on your silicone craft mat and then use a piece of Stampin' sponge to dot the glue and then just gently tap it onto the back of your coral. That will work. Or I have this precision tip glue bottle. I got it on Amazon. Stampin' Up! Doesn't sell them. And I literally unscrewed the cap and I squeezed my Tombow Mono adhesive glue into this container. And now I have a precision tip that I can use to get some glue on here. So if you can see that, I'm just gently squeezing little bits of glue kind of up on the tips of my coral. I don't have to do the entire thing, but I'm going to do the tips to tack those down. The center is going to be pressed down with the bottle, so that's going to get some, the bottle will help hold it down. But I'm just going to come into the tips so that they don't kind of flail. Now I'm going to make sure I wipe off any excess glue there, and I'm going to put the little silicone cap on so that my Tombow glue does not dry out. Let's decide how we want to place this. Go across the middle like that. Once you touch it, you don't want to move it too much because you don't want to leave behind glue. I'm just gonna press that down with my fingers. Now in the paper pumpkin, there was a Bermuda Bay ink spot, which if you only have the kit, you can use that Bermuda Bay spot. Since I have all of the full-size inks, I tend to just gravitate toward those. I forgot to mention that. If you don't have the full-size pad, the spot was included there in the kit. And the kit also came with a pack of dimensionals. So I'm going to use the dimensionals to attach my water bottle, and that way that'll be popped up a little bit. And we also have some baker's twine here in the kit, and we're going to use this to attach our tag to our bottle. Kind of unravel some and give it a little pinch with your thumb to straighten out any kinks in it. And then I'm just going to thread it through the hole on the tag and around the bottle. First, I'm going to make a knot to hold it in place. I'm going to go ahead and make a bow just like I'm tying my shoes. Fuss with it a little bit and get it to how you want it. When you're happy with your bow, come back in and trim off the extra so that your tails are kind of the length that you want. And there we go. There we have our bottle. So now I'm going to remove the paper backing on my dimensionals. You can also bring in your take your pick tool if you have it to easily pull those off. And I'm ready to place my bottle. Right there. Very fun. Very fun. Oh, I like this. So cute. So we have our sentiment label, sending good thoughts, and we're gonna wanna attach that here. But you'll notice on this one, I made the edges look like a banner. So the way I did that was this banner's Pick-a-Punch. So if you don't have this tool, you could leave it a straight rectangle. If you do have this tool, you could dress up your edges a little bit. On the first card, I used this banner, so maybe we'll use the other one this time just for variety and interest. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide that in here. This piece is 3/4 of an inch by 3 3/4 of an inch, and it fits perfectly into my punch. I'm gonna turn that over so I can see that it's made it to the end and punch. And then I'm gonna turn the banner around and reinsert it, and then do the same thing again. Now, what's nice is you can make your banners any length you want. They just have to either be a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, or 1 inch strips to fit into this banner's punch. If you don't have the banner's Pick-a-Punch, you could also use the lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch, and this would also make nice sentiment labels. Okay, so what we're going to do is add dimensionals onto the back. We need this label to be 3-dimensional so that it can serve as the stopper for our easel. And you're gonna remove the paper backing either with your take your pick tool like I did before, or you can use your fingers. I'm gonna go ahead and prop the card up, and based on where I place my sentiment is going to determine how the card stands. So if I put it really high, the card's gonna stand very erect, or in the middle, it's gonna have a little bit more slope, or if I put it close to the front, it's gonna be at even more of a slant. So you decide where you want that to slant. Last time I did it about in the middle, so this time I'm gonna do it maybe just a little bit lower, just to mix it up. And I'm just using the top of the card to kind of help me get things straight. I'm gonna open it up and look at that. It doesn't look perfectly straight, so I'm just gonna give it a little adjustment there. I think that looks good. And now I'm gonna finger press that down. So now my card is standing in an easel, and I have this lovely starfish. So I'm gonna add a little bit more interest to my card by working that in. Just add some adhesive to the back of our starfish. I'm doing this on the silicone mat so that any extra adhesive doesn't get on my work surface. The silicone mat will repel the mono adhesive glue. It will repel any of the tape runners. It will repel a hot glue gun, but the glue does not stick to this. It'll peel right off. So it's a great place when you're a great mat to use when you're putting adhesive on something small or awkward or whatever, so that you don't get it all over your work surface. If I got extra adhesive right here and then I move my card would stick to my work surface. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and add my starfish. So I think that looks super cute. I'm very excited about that. And that's my finished card. So you can see closes right up to go into an A2 envelope, stands right up for a lot of wow and pizzazz. So here's our two alternate versions for the Sending Good Thoughts Paper Pumpkin Kit. And I promised you I would share more samples. In March of 2022, we had the Beyond the Horizon Paper Pumpkin Kit. And here's a fun sample I made with that kit. I think the only thing I added here were a few gems, and I used a retired circle punch to cut out that little sun, and then I daubed a little bit of yellow So Saffron ink behind the sun so that it would look like the sun was shining. So you can see I cut apart an envelope. This is the remaining piece, and was able to come up with designer series paper for the back of my card. So this one is a fun idea. I also have samples from Safari Celebration in February of 2022. And I made these really fun cards. It's a birthday card and a congratulations card. These really fun cards using Safari Celebration. In addition to the supplies in the Safari Celebration kit, I added soft succulent and fresh freesia ink, which were used to stamp these background sentiments. The stamps are in the kit. I did use the rich raspberry ink spot that came in the kit to stamp that. You can see the paper that is acting as designer series paper. It actually came from the card bases that were included in the kit. I didn't need to add anything there for that. Obviously, I did add thick basic white to make the card base. And I also used regular basic white to cut out a scalloped rectangle and make that nice backdrop for my little critter. I also have these samples from So Cool, the April 2021 kit, and these feature the popsicle. Now, what I did to make the popsicle was I took one card base that was already pre-cut to look like a popsicle, sliced it down the center. I used the kiwi part over here and also included the circle and the banner image that came from the kit. And then over here, what I did was I took the remaining piece that I cut off and I traced it onto a piece of paper from Simply Marvelous. This sheet is actually the Bumblebee paper, but you can also see I used Cool Caribbean, and that's the back side of the Bumblebee paper. So I traced the popsicle onto the Simply Marvelous paper, used my trimmer to cut the straight edges, and my snips to cut the rounded corner, and then I adhered the paper onto this popsicle shaped card base. That left me with a white stick, which I didn't want. So I took a sponge dauber, you could also use a blending brush, and I sponged on some cinnamon cider ink. That color's now retired, but at the time that this kit was current, that was one of the coordinating colors. So I used that, and I also grabbed my cinnamon cider stamping blend and I drew in the little lines to make the popsicle stick look textured. Back here is a retired circle punch. I just popped a circle out of the Simply Marvelous paper. In fact, I did it in the middle of the sheet behind where I was going to set the popsicle so that no one can see it back there, but then I didn't have to waste paper. And you can see even down here when I trimmed off paper to cut this, I had some scraps, and so I used that for the sentiment. This ink is Bermuda Bay. That's the spot that comes in the kit. So similar to the kit this month, Sending Good Thoughts, we had Bermuda Bay in April of 2021 as well. So I used the Bermuda Bay in 3 places, but I did use the Bumblebee to stamp this sentiment, just to, again, vary the Bermuda Bay and the Bumblebee so things would pop and stand out. Bumblebee is now also retired, but at the time that this kit was released, it was a current color and was featured in this kit. I popped a few gemstones over here just to add a little pizzazz, but really, you know, it's the Simply Marvelous paper is the main addition here that you need. And of course the white cardstock to make the card base. And those dimensions for the card base are the same for all of them. So I'm gonna bring back in all of my samples so that you can see them all. All of the samples at once, and I hope you'll leave me a comment and let me know which one is your favorite. Number 1, the orange dreamsicle popsicle. Number 2, the kiwi popsicle. Number 3, the congratulations card. Number 4, the happy birthday card. Number 5, the horizon landscape. Number 6, the message in the bottle. Or number 7, the seahorse. Would love to know which one is your favorite. Hopefully you can see that this fun fold works for a variety of designs. You really just need to pick a design that can be vertical in nature, and then you should be good to go. The other thing that I look for when I'm making an easel card is to make sure that I have some sort of paper option that I can use on the inside that will complement but contrast with what I've done on the front. So, you know, when I'm planning a card like this, I'm always thinking about something where I have 2 papers that I feel like will work together, where the card can be vertical in nature, and where I have 2 sentiments that when shown at the same time complement each other based on the supplies I'm using. So for instance, since this was a round circle, I needed a sentiment that would fit in that circle. This would not. You know, my stopper tends to be more horizontal, so then I'm looking for a more horizontal sentiment on the bottom. I have used circle stoppers on the bottom in other cases, just not on these cards. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you are not a subscriber to Paper Pumpkin and you have an interest in subscribing to these all-inclusive kits, they're very affordable. You can start a subscription and the kit will come 1 per month. If there's ever a kit that you're not interested in, or for some reason you're going to be on an extended vacation or whatnot, you can pause the kit for a month. I would love to have you join me and be a Paper Pumpkin subscriber. I will put a link down in the comments for how you can subscribe to Paper Pumpkin. I do perks 1 or 2 times a year for my Paper Pumpkin subscribers, and I also offer a monthly webinar where we make our Paper Pumpkin kits together. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please click on the red subscribe button. If it's not red, that means you're already subscribed. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. Also, while you're down in the comments, check it out for a link. I will have a downloadable that will share information about the additional supplies I used, as well as setting and scoring dimensions for the easel fold card. Thanks so much for joining me. Until the next time. Bye.